Hemp, and I want to introduce our moderator for this panel is Christina Paredes. She is the director of the Tallahassee Leon Office of Economic Vitality. I just want to recognize her and her staff and office because they were part of the planning team that helped bring this Hemp Summit together, and on top of that, they were our first sponsor, which helped us secure the venue and gave us the momentum to continue the planning process. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for being here today. We're really excited to have this next panel conversation to talk a little bit about the versatility of hemp products. You heard a lot today about how there are 25,000 usage of hemp products in our community. And just to kind of give you an idea, in 2017, 820 million US-based hemp products were sold in the United States. 13% were in textiles, 18% were mostly for industrial applications. Food made up 17%. CBD hemp made up 23%. And then personal care and supplements made up 27%. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're seeing in hemp-based product sales here in the United States. The global estimates for industrial hemp market, it's projected to grow from 4.6 billion in 2019 to 26.6 billion by 2025. That's a huge industry here, and I'm very excited to be moderating the panel discussion with some entrepreneurs here in the field, talking a little bit about the hemp products that they have created and what you see when you move beyond the processing of the hemp product. So I'd like for each one of you to introduce yourselves, what your area of expertise is, and what drew you to this industry.
Okay then, I hope you ate a lot of that candy so you're not in a food coma. Lots of coffee. Hi, I'm Susan Shear. I am the CEO and founder of Heavenly Hash Creamery. I'm also, by trade, I'm an oncology nurse and a critical care nurse. And how I got into this situation or this industry was due to 2 glasses of wine, which I will explain. But basically, I was in the hospital setting until 2012, the end of 2012, and then I started an oncology nurse navigation program that helps navigate cancer patients. So for about 5.5 years, I had a 360 view on what patients wanted as far as nutrition and what they went through and what would increase the quality of their life. So at the end of 2017, my husband died unexpectedly. And I really didn't know what I was going to do at that point. Nobody tells you your brain goes a little numb during that time frame. And I didn't feel like really networking, and a friend brought me to a networking event, and that was my first glass of wine, and said, you have to meet this ice cream maker. He makes ice cream for the Lightning, the team in Tampa. And so I said, hey, can you make me a high-fat, high-protein ice cream for cancer patients? Because what they've been given is Boost and Ensure, and they were never under clinical trial. And the thing with cancer patients, when you get to stage 4 cancer, 1 in 4 cancer patients will die from what's called cachexia, which is a muscle wasting syndrome, or they don't have enough protein to heal. And so while I was thinking about that, I said, you know what, on the other side, me and the 40,000 nurses that belong to the Oncology Nursing Society, we have a tendency to steer people towards cannabis. When it gets to a point, Marinol doesn't work, pain medicine doesn't work, anxiety medicine doesn't work, that was always the go-to. Of course, there's only so much you can say in a hospital setting. It would be more like, so, do you have any teenage kids? Talk to them, see if they can make you some cookies, and you'll feel a lot better. So I came home, and I thought, okay, this is 4 months after my husband passed away. And I said, did you come up with this idea? And I thought, well, I think I'm going to call it Heavenly, something with Heavenly, because of him. And so it came up with Heavenly Hash Creamery, and that's how the company came to be. So we produced that ice cream. We launched it in June of last year. And one of the things coming up here and talking to you about it was, obviously I wasn't supposed to do it yet. So we did sell 17,000 cups of ice cream that we dosed in 20, 40, 60, 80 milligram cups. And that hit nationally and globally, all over. So I even got a call from Tommy Chung. We're making 3 flavors for him. He was a colon and prostate cancer patient. And so now we have a whole new executive team, and we are growing relatively fast. We never thought of using ice cream as a way of delivery, on a delivery source. So here was a way that we could have this high protein ice cream. To get it out into the masses, what we decided to do was have it without the CBD first, and that is through global distribution, and that goes into hospitals. So Heavenly Hash Creamery can build its brand that way in states that allow hemp, and once the rules are finalized here, we will go back to producing that. We will also be producing THC as well in countries that allow it. And so there you go.
That's an excellent story.
Brianna? Hi, everyone. My name's Brianna Kilcullen. I'm the founder of Enact. Enact is short for a simple act of kindness, a simple act of goodwill. This just happened to be my simple act, which was developing this towel. I started working in the textile industry, so I worked for Under Armour, and then I worked for Prana, which is owned by Columbia Sportswear. And so I worked in their sourcing and their production and sustainability departments. So I would travel to the factories around the world to see how our clothes are made. And I came to this realization that less than 1% of clothing that's sold in the US is actually made in the US. So all the clothing that I think everyone's wearing today comes from somewhere else. And so I had that realization, and I felt like a lot of people didn't understand that. And then on top of that, I saw the environmental impact of how our clothes are made on people and the planet. So I was always looking for a way that I could share that information and to help people understand that impact. I was traveling in China several years ago, and I happened to be there when they were harvesting hemp. And at the same time, I was living in San Diego, and I didn't have a washer or dryer. And I was looking for a bath towel that was sustainable, but also performed and didn't pick up that mildewy smell after a while. And living here in Florida with that humidity, it can be pretty brutal. And so I kept looking, and I didn't really see anything. And I was in China, and they were harvesting, and I was like, tell me about this fiber. Why are you investing in it? What's going on? And so that's when I learned about hemp's natural performance features, being it's biostatic, so it resists the growth of bacteria, incredibly absorbent, very durable. Also, the way it's grown completely is amazing. Uses little to no water to grow, no insecticides, pesticides, herbicides. And so talking to farmers there, I was really impressed. And when I was flying back into California, I was like, I'm going to buy hemp towels. Where are they? I'm coming for them. And so I did a quick Google search, and I just didn't really see anyone doing it. And there was none that I would buy. So I made the decision a little over almost 2 years ago. I left my job, I moved back, I'm a Jacksonville native, and came back to Florida because I knew the federal legislation was going to pass. I knew that states like Florida were going to pass this legislation, and I wanted to develop this product to solve my own problem with the expectation other people have this problem, and I wanted to build that infrastructure here in Florida. So we just launched a month ago, and we launched on Kickstarter. Our campaign ends tonight, and we've sold a little over $40,000 in sales, which I think is really exciting.
Did you hear? She says her Kickstarter ends tonight, so there's still time.
Yeah, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so, this is a towel that's going to be better than your current towel, and it just so happens to use hemp. And we're here to build that infrastructure. I want to see and be able to partner with local farmers and be able to invest in that and then sell it to the Florida market. So we just had to start somewhere. And so I think we're definitely on the front lines. So we're constantly educating the customer here in Florida specifically. And I can't even tell you if I could count how many times I get asked, can I smoke it too? So I'm definitely ready for the customer education component. But and we created an impact score. So each time you buy from us, we'll show how much water you're saving, how many chemicals, energy emissions. And this is really important because of the climate crisis that we're seeing around the world, and especially here in Florida. And that's our goal, is to show the impact that business can have, that when we solve problems, but we also take into consideration people and the planet as well. So yeah, and I'm excited to be here today.
Dr. Fladalone?
My name is Dr. Patrick Fratellone. I'm a certified cardiologist that practices in New York, so my business is in treating patients. I have a practice in New York and Connecticut, and I'm a conventionally trained doctor, and I want to tell you how I'm going to change that. So my first medical partner after I finished training in New York City was Dr. Robert Atkins, a very controversial man. And I ran his center till the day he died. So he taught me a lot about supplements and about high protein, high fat, although I don't agree with the high fat right now, but he was a low carbohydrate lifestyle that we all live. So I ran his center till he died, and after he died, I set up my own practice. But he introduced me to someone who changed my life, which was Andrew Weil. So I went to get a fellowship in integrative medicine. So although I practice cardiology, I'm an integrative physician. The new term is functional medicine. And I stayed with Andrew Weil for 3 years in Arizona, and someone there encouraged me to get a botany degree. You'll see how I'm getting closer to cannabis. So I got a botany degree and became a registered herbalist. And I also teach at one of the few naturopathic medical schools in the United States in the University of Bridgeport. So my practice is all about plants and supplements. I do still give medicines out when needed, but there are a lot of alternative or integrative ways. I think you'll be turning to plants more and more as years go on, just like cannabis. I've been using hemp for many years. I've been using medical marijuana as long as I can use it. And before it was legal in certain states, I used to get it and infuse it in my honey, because I'm a beekeeper, and give it to my cancer patients. So Dr. Atkins was a rebel. I'm a rebel in a different time. But I use a lot of hemp products, and I'm really glad to be here to share that with you. I also am the medical advisory for Canbiola. I'm on their medical board. And it's been a wonderful experience, so thank you.
I'm Ashley Guy. Hi, I'm Ashley Guy. I'm a local business owner here in Tallahassee. I am the owner of Tallulah CBD and Juice Bar. So we have about 45 different CBD brands we carry in the store. Feel free to stop by if you have time. We're open until 8 p.m. So I moved here from Seattle a year ago. My husband grows marijuana for True Leaf, and I decided, where's my juice bar? I couldn't find a good juice bar, and I needed my juice bar. So I decided to open a juice bar, and that morphed into a CBD shop. I have arthritis in my hand and my neck, so I've been experiencing pain for about 10 years. And as soon as I started to use a CBD tincture, which is CBD oil in my mouth orally, I felt a lot of relief in my hand. So my pain in my hand that had been constant was gone. So I was like, this CBD is something. So I opened a CBD shop, and now we actually have the largest CBD selection in Tallahassee and one of the largest selections of CBD in the state of Florida. I carry everything from CBD gum to CBD tinctures to lots of dog and pet treats. So a wide variety of products. I'm hoping to carry CBD alcohol and CBD ice cream as soon as I'm able to do that legally. Right now I follow all the rules and requirements for carrying CBD in Florida. And eventually in January, I'll be opening the juice bar section of my store. I have a huge store, and then we will have juices infused with CBD. So it's been a wild ride, and we opened up on September 16th, just a little bit ago, and business has already been phenomenal. It's just been a wild ride. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
Oh, that was going to be my question. Would you share with us your location, Ashley?
Sure. Yeah, Tallulah CBD and Juice Bar. It's 1410 Market Street, Suite C4, and we're by Chicken Salad Chick.
That should be an easy one. Thank you. So my first question is actually for you, Dr. Flatterlone. Will you talk, we heard Holly Bell mention today about the ability to use hemp products for anxiety and muscle soreness. Can you talk a little bit about how you treat your patients and what products you subscribe to for them?
Yeah, so one of the three major diseases that I use CBD products is anxiety, number one, insomnia, number two, and pain. And in my practice, some people want to come off medication. So the best way to come off medication is to use plants. So I'll use CBD as either an oil, a gel base, or as a cream, but I'm using other plants with it. So if you come in for anxiety and you've been addicted to, let's say, clonazepam or diazepam, which is Valium, and that addiction is a big part of why I do this, because I'm sober 25 years, which I think is pretty amazing that I'm in the cannabis business, but I'm sober. So a person wants to come off benzodiazepines. I use CBD to get them come off, slowly substituting, but adding other plants like skullcap, passion flower. So anxiety is great. I also think it's great for pain. So a lot of people are addicted. We have a big opioid crisis in the United States. I think if they would let CBD legal in every state, we wouldn't have this problem. And it's a plant, so you can substitute pain medicines, opioids, with cannabis, whether cream, tincture, or gel caps. And the last one is insomnia, so you really want a good CBD product. Again, not all CBD is the same. No, I mean, you're selling great products, but I wouldn't go to from New York City, you get CBD in every smoke shop on every corner, and I don't advocate that. So you can use it for insomnia, it's great. But of course, I extend it to cancer patients, but then I might use my marijuana card to help them get CBD with THC, which is needed.
Okay. The FDA maintains that some CBD products are being marketed with unproven medical claims. How do you predict businesses and stakeholders will respond to this over the next 5 years? Sure, open to the panel.
Well, I totally agree. I think that when I'm speaking to patients or consumers, whoever, I always talk about anecdotally. You know, this is what the patient is feeling. And I think that until the research is validated and you have evidence-based research, you can't make those claims. And you know, even in the cancer world, I can't tell somebody if they're taking Xeloda for colon cancer that that's going to cure their cancer. You know, so I think you have to be very mindful of that. Everybody's experience is totally different. I have someone that'll take it for their Parkinson's and they stop shaking. You know, you have somebody that, you know, has put it on melanoma and they go back and their margins are negative. I can't explain that, but it's not for me to make those claims. And so I totally agree with the FDA, you know, being very stringent where that's concerned.
I don't agree with the FDA. I think it's fine for what they're doing, but there is research out there. There is research in peer-reviewed journals outside of this country. And those have to be looked at. And an example is I have a cancer patient. I do a chemosensitivity test, which is not legal in the United States. It's from Greece. They test the chemo that will work for that patient by me sending their blood. I can't put my name on it. I tell the patient, they come in, I draw the blood, they go and mail it. Because if I put my name on it, I will go to jail because it's a non-certified test. But I want them to get the test to find out what chemo is right, but they also test supplements and they test cannabis, a part of killing their cancer. So there is studies out there. I know the FDA has to be fair, but I could give you a lot of examples that people are living because of cannabis. And I'm sure you can too. So I think I want to be strict, but I want to let you know that if you know anyone who has cancer or you advocate for your own health, search out cannabis or CBD for your own health, for what you have, because there will be studies, and they're coming out more and more. It does work.
I know with my business, each product I carry has a QR code on it. It's not a barcode, it's a QR code, so you scan it with your phone, and you can see the third-party test results, the lab results, and you're going to make sure that whatever you're scanning, it has less than 0.3% THC, and most of my products are actually 0% THC too. So you're checking your products through scanning on your phone. I also am constantly researching the best products out there. So I'm selecting Green Roads, some of the top brands, Charlotte's Web, different companies that are multi-million-dollar companies and seem to be doing everything right. So I'm selecting those products to carry in my store, and that helps with validity and different things as well.
Ashley, that was going to be my next question. What measures are you putting in place to ensure customer confidence in your product? And that's a great example of that. Susan, do you have anything that...
Well, from the very beginning, I think, having this medical background, that it was very important, that we dose the cups. That was one thing. But even when we get the product in from Oregon, and we have to make sure it has a COA, we test it again when it comes in. It goes to another third-party lab. And then we put it in our product and we test it again. We randomly pull our product. So I never want to have somebody look at our ice cream and, find out that it's only half of what we say it is. I mean, that's your whole reputation. That's everything on the line. It's very important that we test for pesticides and metals because these are going to patients that are immunocompromised. And so same thing with our packaging coming up. You'll have the QR code on there, so you'll be able to scan and see that, and it'll go right back to our website. And I think, you should be as transparent as you possibly can.
And it's actually, in Florida now, we have to have QR codes on all CBD products. It's a legal requirement too. So oftentimes I'll call up companies or I'll email them and say, I'm interested in carrying your product, but I need a QR code on it. And the companies, they'll say, oh, we don't have that yet. Maybe that's down the road when we get more money. I said, I'm not carrying your product until I have the QR code on. And when everybody starts to do that, then it brings the bar up too. So if you're thinking of developing your own product, it's really important that you have that QR code, and then you have also the lab results too. When I'm getting my product into the store and I get my box of your product, I want another certificate of analysis. I want all of it, the QR codes. I want extra lab results. I want you to certify that this product is less than 0.3% THC. I want all of that, so in case something happens, my back is covered.
So along that line, talking about CBD, what subcategory do you see having the greatest growth potential and enduring market demand? And I guess that last part is your enduring market demand, because you've heard of some conversation today about how there could be a dip in the CBD market.
My market. Hopefully we continue to grow in our market. I think definitely edibles. I was just in Washington, D.C. last week doing some cancer lobbying and also for the Safe Banking Act. And, the vaping issue is huge up there right now, as it should be. But, I think the edible market is going to pick up as a different mechanism for people to enjoy their cannabis.
I think the supplement industry will get bigger and bigger. I mean, I just think that we're having quality products by having these barcodes. You're going to get rid of all those low-level companies. So I think you'll see the dip, but then you'll see a rise again.
I'd say pet products. There's not a lot of companies doing pet products yet. Yeah, there's several, but it's not the same as for humans. So I'm gonna say pet products I think are going to increase greatly, and also coffee. CBD with coffee has been a really big seller, and that seems to be doing well, because when you mix CBD with caffeine, you might wonder how that's going to work out. But when I mix my CBD with caffeine, it takes away my jitters. So I'm not getting the jitters that I would normally get when I just have coffee alone. It's regulating my blood sugar more, and it's giving me a nice caffeine boost without the jitters. So I would say pet products and coffee and CBD.
With pet products, does that calm down 90-pound golden retrievers who bark at everything? Okay, just wanted to make sure about that.
We're coming out with Cold Nose ice cream, which is a sub-product for our ice cream.
Wow.
For pets?
For pets, because my dog, Lily, fireworks season, which seems to be like year-round here in Florida, right? I gave her 80 milligrams of vanilla ice cream, and she's like, yeah, go ahead, just set it off right next to my head. So I looked at her and I was like, okay, wellness is when their nose is cold and wet. So yeah, hey, Cold Nose ice cream. So that's what's coming out.
I like thinking outside of the CBD box. I know that this room's a lot of growers or in, maybe in the citrus industry here in Florida looking for other alternatives. And so I think that CBD is great, but it's oversaturated in our country right now who's focused on growing it. So I think it's advantageous to look outside of that. And I think hempcrete's really exciting. I think that growing for fiber, growing for fuel, that's a really fascinating opportunity. And I think that no one's expecting Florida to do that. I think that states are looking at Colorado, they're looking at California, they're looking at Kentucky, and then trying to say, okay, they're making this much money from the isolate, so we're going to go try and we're going to do that. But I think that we have an opportunity to think 2 steps ahead and beat them to where they haven't gotten before in order for us to actually lead here in Florida.
That was going to lead me to my next question with you, Brianna. We had a lot of conversation about hemp fiber and how to produce that. And I know right now you're manufacturing your towels in China, correct? Mm-hmm. Do you envision an opportunity to bring that onshore in the future? And what does that look like for you so we can help support you in that effort?
Yeah, I think what's so important that I really enjoy about hemp is it's forcing us to have a conversation about why certain industries and infrastructure have left our country. And I think that textile represents that, but I think a lot of other industries represent that as well. And so for us, I tried to make this in the US. It took me years to develop this, and this is my background, because that infrastructure has left. And so for us to have a conversation on how do we develop hemp textiles, we have to really discuss why did it leave? What does it need? What do we need to do in order to bring it back and actually compete on the market? Not just bring it back to make a product, but compete. And I think those are really important conversations. The goal here was that if we create this product and we start showing the market demand and the volume, it would incentivize and help us to work backwards to grow from farm to factory here. So I go to China, I document the process to understand how our towel is made. We don't have a seed inventory or seed bank here, so getting access to seed is critical, I think, for any hemp, let alone textiles specifically. And then being able to invest in innovation, automation, robotics, into actually being able to make this product and then compete as well.
So when we opened the panel, we talked about 13% right now of hemp-based products are purchased by consumers in textiles. Do you see that growing? I know you mentioned a little bit about earrings and your T-shirt. Do you want to talk a little bit about the future growth of textiles that you see?
Yeah, I think hemp is so fascinating when you get to solve problems. And so when I look at towels and where a towel lives, that's my main focus. So I'm like hotels, hospitals, restaurants, you name it. That's what I'm going after. There's a lot of other end uses within home goods, within, again, apparel. I think you'll see companies starting to use it. Are they going to use 100% hemp? No, I think they're going to put a little percentage and jump on the marketing train to sell some T-shirts. So I think it will continue to expand. I mean, this is a crop that we're reintroducing. This is not like a novel concept where we're all of a sudden like, look what we found. It's, to Holly's point, George Washington was a hemp farmer. This is so intrinsic to the United States DNA and our history and global history. So I think that we'll see more cottonizing of the hemp, and it will start to replace cotton as well.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Fratellone, you mentioned supplements, seeing growth in supplements. Right now, that market only makes up about 5%. Do you see, how do you see that growing over the next 5 years?
I think it's going to be used for more and more diseases, not just the 3 that I talked about. I think the biggest, we have an epidemic of autoimmune disease, chronic disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all chronic diseases due to the environment, which I have to bring up that Holly this morning mentioned pesticides. If we don't watch what the pesticides are doing, they're going to kill all the pollinators that pollinate your hemp. So you have to, I think, all of these associations with hemp have to work with beekeepers and other pollinators, because if you lose that, you're not going to be pollinating hemp. So I think we're going to see an increase for all the environmental diseases, which we call chronic disease. I think we'll see more hemp products come out in that market.
So what is your elevator pitch for people to remember as entrepreneurs as they move forward to looking at developing a hemp product? And this one's for all of you.
I can start. I would say I'm looking, if I'm going to bring a product in, I'm looking for good packaging. I see a lot of products that have good science behind them and good growing practices, but the packaging just is not right and the product won't sell no matter how great the product is. I have one product, I won't name the name, but it has a hemp leaf on it. Won't sell at all, and they also, on their website, just dropped their price down to wholesale pricing on their website, so I can't compete with that. So I will not be rebuying their product. That's just one example. But the other companies that I really am partnering with treat me more as a partner, and they're offering really good relationships. We're building relationships. They provide education, nonstop education to myself and my staff. Whenever we have a question, we just call up their education guy, and we can talk about a specific need of a customer. We're not doctors, of course, and we always say consult your physician, but we can recommend products and say something like this may help you. So building that relationship with the company that's selling you the product, and then having good marketing materials, good packaging, a good product that's tested, that they've done their own testing, is really important.
I think that we have to focus as entrepreneurs from whatever sphere of influence you're in around solving problems, and hemp's just a component to that solution. So just trying to focus on how hemp can do it, I think is dangerous, but instead saying what are the problems we can solve and how can we incorporate hemp. I think another piece of advice is just, there's so many highs and lows in being in the hemp and being in this, hot industry. And I was in Citra, for anyone else who was there a little over a year ago with IFAS, where they told us it would be years before we would ever be able to grow. And we already have a bill in place and we're coming up with rules. So it changes every day, so get used to that. And definitely take your CBD in the morning because that helps. But I would say, and also being collaborative, because it also can be this very cutthroat industry. And the reality is that hemp has this amazing opportunity to build this infrastructure and to partner with one another. And no one's expecting Florida. We're kind of that underdog because we were, 4 years we set after the 2014 Farm Act bill. So we have a real opportunity to come out swinging, and I think that's pretty exciting. But working together is key to that.
And I would echo what they're saying. And also, when you're thinking about, when you talk about the highs and lows, you have that with just being an entrepreneur. First and foremost is the high and lows. And going into an industry that's so young, you have to be able to pivot at all time. Don't get distracted. You're going to have a lot of different opportunities, and don't start going down a road and you have all these exit, strategies that you can do. Stay focused to your product. Stick with that, get it perfected, and then you can move on to something else. The other thing I would tell you is make sure you have a market for it. You may have a good idea, but one of the things that as an entrepreneur, we talked about how are we going to there's 3 ways you can move from your company. You can either sell it, or you can do a legacy, let your kids take over or your family take over. I told my kids that's not an option, so they have to do it on their own. Or the other thing is that, acquisition and, 5 minutes. Anyway, figure out what you want to do and get that set up beforehand, and stick to your product, stick to what you know, and the rest will come.
Our next panel that follows up is going to talk a lot about economic development and how to support an industry here. From your perspectives as entrepreneurs, how can the state of Florida, and most specifically the 850 region, support you and your industry?
Gotta get those rules passed. That's the biggest thing. Gotta get those rules finalized so we can move on. I think we just need to collaborate with each other. I mean, you said it perfectly. Everybody has a lot of great resources. We're all in this together, and I think collaboration is huge. Use your state resources, talk to them. We looked at a bunch of different hemp bills throughout the United States, and I will tell you that Florida is the only one that has dairy frozen dessert. Why do you think that is? So, if you have something you need to say or something you need to offer, you need to help your state out, and vice versa.
It's education. This is a great meeting for education.
And then final thoughts before we open it up for questions. on hemp products and their versatility.
I just think it's a really exciting time. I mean, the quantity of products available, the different types. Every day I come to my store and I'm just excited at the different options people have. It's a good time, lots of great products out there. It's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, thank you. And with that, we'll be happy to open it up to any questions that anybody in the audience has. Thank you all for coming up here and sharing your thoughts with us today. It's very remarkable stories for how you came about in your businesses. So thank you for sharing.
My question is about dosage and cost per dose or cost per milligram of CBD oil. I mean, many of you talked about the variations in the costs per 300 milligrams. So that's kind of really what I'm after is what is a reasonable dose? How many times a day do you take it? In the morning when you get up?
It depends what you're using it for. You know, if you're using it for anxiety, you could take it in the morning and the afternoon. I think you want a good quality product. You're going to pay for a good quality product. You're not going to get it at the local place. You're going to get it their store. I mean, it can vary. Everyone's different. I might start with 6 milligrams and go up. But I want to, depending on the disease entity, I'm going to dose it differently throughout the day. So it depends. But I would say, I think if you're going to start going into CBD with THC, too many agencies are charging too much, and the people who really need that for their cancer can't afford it. That's a problem. And I don't want to see that happen in the CBD high quality. So we would like to keep it, right now it's okay, but I could see it going up and down.
Yeah, and one of my brands that I sell, Green Roads, they just did a huge price drop. So last week they dropped all their prices. They reimbursed us for what we lost, which was great. So I've been seeing prices actually dropping right now. So that's a new trend. That's good.
I would say as far as dosing, you know, I get asked, how did we come with 20 milligrams? And doing the 20, 40, 60, 80. The next dosing that'll come out will be 20, 40, and 80. After, you know, having last year's sales. And this was after speaking to a lot of different physicians, and it depends really on the patient. So if you have someone that's opioid naive, you may want to, obviously you're going to start them out lower. If you have someone that doesn't have a lot of body fat, you're going to start them out lower. The elderly metabolize things a lot differently than we do. Their kidney function is more impaired. So it really depends on the patient. So we always tell them start out really low at the lower dose and work your way up. Obviously, if we have someone that has, you know, a bigger BMI, we're going to tell them, you know, start at a higher dose. But these are suggestions, and we make sure that we tell them that these are suggestions. It's up to them.
Okay.
Yeah, Glenn Aiken with UFIFAS. I have a very off-the-wall question for Brianna.
Okay.
Dealing with fabric, with a regular towel, cotton, whatever, every time you put it in the dryer, you lose a little more to lint, it wears out. With the hemp towels, do they last longer?
Yeah, so hemp's one of the most durable fibers. I mean, we used it for, the U.S. Navy uses it for their rope, and the canvas is derived from cannabis, so all of the sailors or explorers who sailed used it to sail. So hemp is naturally durable, and so our towels are designed to last you longer than a regular conventional cotton towel. But not off the wall. I was expecting something much worse, so thank you.
Potential customer.
Okay. Enact.com, 11 p.m. tonight, everyone.
Hello, I've been asking a lot of questions today, but this is very interesting. Outside of having a general contracting company, I also have I have 3 personal care homes for disabled veterans. My husband's a 100% disabled veteran. So I've noticed that out of the 9 clients that I have, 7 of them were diagnosed with chronic PTSD. I did find a psychologist and physician in Georgia that would do the paperwork for the medical marijuana card. So in what you're seeing, is that something that replaces the opioids that they're being prescribed? And
I say
effective is
yes.
it?
There are good studies now on post-traumatic stress using CBD, good quality, and you have to, because it depends on what opioid they're on, to replace the opioids. If they're on a high dose, you might want to start not a low dose, but a little higher and go up, but I see it replacing it for the future.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and the average drug prescription for some of our PTSD soldiers, and I'm ex-military, so I get that, is usually about 12, which is insane. And so we definitely need to do something about it, and it would be great to have more access to our VA system.
As a consumer product, how is the insurance industry responding to your products and the costs, and how's that being handled?
Are you asking about how much insurance we pay for the? I mean, no, something different. Insurance industry, no.
Yeah,
Health insurance.
Product liability
Oh, health
insurance.
insurance?
Yeah.
And, I mean, is it
Well,
expensive? Are
yes.
you able to get it?
Well, for my store, I bought the best insurance on the market, and they also carry, they hold insurance for Juul, one of the biggest vape companies. And it was very expensive, but it's good coverage. It doesn't cover kava or kratom, of course, and it doesn't cover external batteries for vapes. It was very expensive, and it was recommended to me by the CBD coffee company I carry, and they also have that. So it's important to get really good insurance with the vape crisis now, I think, as well. I have CBD vapes, so it was very expensive, but I mean, I didn't have a lot of options too. And when you have a business, obviously you're required to carry insurance for my building where I'm leasing. So I bought the best insurance, and we'll see how much it goes up next year.
I will tell you that my insurance is extremely expensive. Of course, ice cream, we have a listeria issue. Recall is always a big thing, or people licking the top of it in a grocery store is probably not a good idea. But I will say that for a non-CBD product, it runs about $43,000 a year. For our CBD product, it's $143,000 a year. But we have to carry at least $10 million worth of insurance per, for the CBD and the non-CBD, because we are global distribution. I mean, our next order going out in a couple weeks is 500,000 cups. So, yeah, it's expensive. It's really expensive.
I think we should also, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but don't use the word hemp, not like obviously in relation to your insurance, but I think that because there's such a lack of education that it's so many people automatically start registering what they think it is. So like when we import, I'm like, it's a natural plant fiber. Any other questions? No? Great. So I'll pick it up here. So like I don't put hemp, I don't market it as hemp. I'm like, this is gonna perform better. These are all the reasons why. So I think that thinking of it before trying to lead with hemp I recommend it.
Do you think that stigma will eventually go away? I know we had a large conversation just when we started doing our own research internally to our team is what is hemp, what are the products, and how can we support it from an economic development standpoint? So do you see that stigma changing over time?
With education.
With
Yeah,
education?
I think, being up in Washington, D.C., actually, I think we need to stay away from CBD because of the whole Epidiolex situation. I mean, obviously you want to use more cannabinoids. I mean, let's be honest, we like to use the THC and the full plant as much as we possibly can. And us as a company will start using the hemp extract more so than we will use CBD, just because there is so much that we're dealing with on a federal level with it. And if you look at all the hemp bills, they're referring to hemp extract. You will see some that talk about declassifying and saying that, okay, cannabidiol is included in our hemp program, but that's not always the case in all these other states. Sometimes they don't even mention it. And so I think we need to start using that vernacular more so than using the CBD until they change things.
Yeah, and with Tallulah CBD and Juice Bar, we're in a more conservative area of Tallahassee, so it's been a lot of education, people coming in, trying on testers, trying out products, word of mouth. Many times people will try a pain lotion first or a roll-on, and they get their feet wet, they try something little, maybe a little tiny bag of gummies or a little pet treat, then they come back and they're trying something different. So they're slowly getting into it, and most customers tell me they absolutely would never get THC and CBD together. They don't want to go to a medical dispensary. They're not interested. They want 0 THC. They do not want to get high, or they want less than 0.3%, 0.3%, less than 0.3% THC. So they're very much interested in just going into a shop that is not your cannabis dispensary, or even going through the whole medical marijuana card process in Florida, which every 6 months you have to get renewed and is a high price barrier for many. So just having the CBD shop be accessible to people, be friendly, be open and inviting, and having high-end products that are well-known and well-branded has really gone far to help legitimize CBD, at least where I'm selling it.
And legislation, that was really difficult when we didn't even have it legal and we were trying to sell product. But for fabric specifically, so hemp was made illegal in 1937, and we've been importing for the past 80 years. And during World War II, our #1 importer, Japan, Pearl Harbor happened, so we started manufacturing again, Hemp for Victory, and the U.S. still hasn't taken ownership of that type of propaganda that we had. So I think that now that we have the federal legislation, we're passing state legislation, we need to start incorporating in our textbooks in school so that kids are learning this from the beginning instead of having us to all educate, because it's enough to start a business and it's another to educate an industry and a plant. And so I think that's a huge support opportunity, is how can we not have to take that on as much and be able to show that this is a crop we've used for thousands of years.
I have a question mainly for Brianna. In the panel before, one of the gentlemen said that there was a possibility of opening some type of processing for the CBD oil and the fiber in North Florida. So, and I don't know that this is a reasonable question. So when you were in China and you saw these plants and the manufacturing and what was going on, how big is this equipment? What kind of equipment? I mean, how big a space do you need? If I want to try to sell this idea to an investor in our county, what am I trying to sell? Am I trying to get them to do a 20,000 square foot building, 100,000 square foot building? What am I talking to them about?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question, business plan right there. But again, the infrastructure is massive in China, and I don't think it's in our best interest to just replicate it here, because again, we won't be able to compete because of our wages and because of a lot of other factors. So I think that investing in it's going to look different. It's going to take a lot of really smart people coming together and saying, okay, I'm going to take ownership of the farm. I think that's going to be replicated, will be the same, but the actual processing and the machinery will be something that I can't even conjure up in my head, and that's why I haven't completely done it yet. But it's going to take a lot of really smart people coming together to figure that part out.
And like Holly Bell mentioned earlier, kind of all this starting with economic development. That's a great question to ask the next panel about how we can position our region to take advantage of being in a position to produce that from a fiber standpoint. Any other questions for our panelists? Oh, yes, sir.
Yes, I know that using the terminology hemp is a good way to get around the stigma that is out there as far as CBD. The only issue that I have, and by the way, 3 years ago at the National Nutritional Trade Show, the movement was to go to labeling everything as a hemp full spectrum. The problem that I see with that, though, is a quality regulation problem. You've got to be able to know if you're going to use CBD therapeutically, you have to know how much CBD you're getting. And if you start labeling everything as a hemp full spectrum or whatever, then you lose that ability to control or know what the product you're taking. And then it leaves things open to unscrupulous people in the way they market their product. So you really do need to leave the CBD and maybe regulate the measurements, make sure that in the QR code that your dosage is documented.
So what we did is to address both of those issues because we had the same concern. And if you look at labeling in different states as well, and from a marketing point of view, to stay, because we may be going into CBG, we may be going into CBN, but as you put on your label, you're going to have to describe what kind of hemp product it is. So you can say that you are using a hemp extract, but just like within your nutritionals, you have to list how much cannabidiol you have. So we would say cannabidiol 20% or 20 milligrams. So you do have to list it. So just to kind of let you know, that's
that wasn't going to be on the label anywhere.
Yeah, no, that's what we label it. But we, as far as your website is our website is concerned and everything, it's a hemp extract.
I have one more comment.
Until the FDA says, the smaller versions are going to be considered okay to be put in food, the lower doses, which is something that they talked about, and the higher doses would be considered pharmaceutical. From everything that I've gotten from DC, it seems like almost to avoid this whole issue is to do this because we're using different cannabinoids as well, and you should be able to list those cannabinoids off of your testing on your product.
The CBD oil tinctures can be very confusing for customers as well. They think they're getting the whole bottle, we'll say 100 milligrams. They think they're taking 100 milligrams per dropper. So I get this all the time. One company, CB Distillery, is the only one currently labeling their bottles in big bold letters with each dropper. So it would say 33 milligrams. Green Roads does this as well, but it's smaller. So really trying to educate people. People tend to want to buy the least expensive tincture as well, and they tend to get only 6 milligrams per dropper, and then they think once a day is good enough, and then they wonder why they don't get the results. And most of those people, too, are the ones with the PTSD, cancer patients, you name it, people who are in real need of CBD, and they're dosing very small just because they're confused and they don't want to spend the money. So really the education is key, and then the labeling on the labels,
We got time for one last question.
Dr. Patrick, high-tech medical research, the merger of CBD with perhaps stem cells has come up. I've met with some people about that. Have you seen a push in that direction as well? And do you see a point in time when the FDA is going to become more active in more of the high-tech type of medications that
I think the FDA
forward?
has to get more involved in the high-tech thing. I think they have to get involved in the labeling that was just mentioned on CBD. They just have to get more involved because it's too loose out there right now. And I think with a state like Florida, as opposed to New York, this is ground level here. I think this could be started here, like something like this. Because I think we have to be stricter on the labels, and I think we need more research, and they're going to get involved. When there's money involved, they're going to get involved. And I just think that it has to change. Some of the legalities on specifications on bottles, just like was stated, patients are very confused when they look at a bottle. They see 1,800 milligrams. They have no idea. And you're right. Some of them take it thinking, I'm getting 1,800 milligrams, and they're getting maybe 7, and they really needed so much more. So you also need to educate more conventional physicians. See, not physicians that practice like I do, conventional physicians who really, they see a lot of patients on CBD. They should be asking, do you take CBD for anxiety? And they should educate their patients.
Well, and the other thing too is I talk to USF a lot, the College of Nursing, and I said we need to start teaching about the endocannabinoid system in the schools. You have to, you're being asked about it. You have nurses and doctors that don't even know what, your receptor, you know, 1 or 2, or they have no idea. People don't even know that without cannabinoids that are mostly in your brain, you wouldn't even be here, or that it's in breast milk and that we actually produce it. So I think it's very important that, you know, we talk to our academic institutions and say, it's about time you start putting this into these programs.
Which they do put it in a naturopathic program, but not in conventional medical schools.
Well, thank you very much for being here today. I think my biggest takeaway from the panel conversation is the need to further implement our rules, having some regulation from FDA, and most importantly, education on the product. And I just want to thank Richard Fetchick on my team for helping us get ready for for today and the panel conversation. And thank you all for taking the time to be here to share your experiences with it. I really appreciate it, and I know the summit does as well.